A sudden boom woke people in New England up. Windows shook and houses trembled. It was not an earthquake, no explosion, no military exercise. NASA called it an airburst, and by the time most people in New England even understood what that word meant, the object that produced it was already sitting at the bottom of Cape Cod Bay. Saturday, May 30th, 2026, 2:05 in the afternoon. A 3-foot rock from space entered the atmosphere at approximately 75,000 miles per hour near the border between New Hampshire and Massachusetts, 40 miles above the surface. The pressure became too great. The rock fragmented. The energy released was equivalent to approximately 300 tons of TNT, and the boom carried from Delaware to Montreal. Police departments across Massachusetts and Rhode Island were flooded with calls. The Watertown police issued a public statement saying unknown origin, no reports of hazards at this time. NASA later corrected them. This was an airburst, a rock from space that exploded before it hit anything. Nobody saw it coming. No alert fired, no warning system triggered. And here's the question that will matter before the end of this video. In 2026, with weather satellites, lightning mappers, Doppler radar, and a planetary defense network funded by the United States government, how does a 3-foot rock arrive over one of the most densely populated coastlines in America without a single second of advance warning? The answer is not what most people assume. People have been recording moments like this for thousands of years, and some of the most precise records come not from NASA, but from oral traditions that survived intact across millennia. The Meteor people of the Torres Strait have a specific word for the sound a meteor makes when it explodes in the atmosphere. They call it the dum. In their tradition, when a person dies, the spirit becomes a mire, a fireball crossing the sky toward the land of the dead. The people wait for the dum, the loud booming sound, because it tells them the spirit arrived safely. They were encoding the acoustic signature of airburst events into cultural memory thousands of years before any instrument existed to measure what that sound actually was. Dr. Dwayne Hamaker of the University of New South Wales, in a study published in the peer-reviewed journal Archaeoastronomy, found definitive links between Aboriginal oral traditions and confirmed meteorite craters in Australia. One is the Henbury Meteorites Conservation Reserve in the Northern Territory, formed approximately 4,700 years ago. Aboriginal men refused to approach the site. They said it was where the fire devil ran down from the sun, hit the ground, and killed everyone. That is not mythology. That is an eyewitness account, passed through 60 generations without interruption. Then there is Tunguska, June 30th, 1908. A bolide over Siberia flattened 2,200 square kilometers of forest without leaving a crater. The object never hit the ground. It detonated in the air. When geologist Leonid Kulik arrived in 1927, trees were still lying in radial patterns from the point where the rock had come apart above them. Directly relevant, in 1807, a meteorite fell in Weston, Connecticut, the same region as the 2026 event. Benjamin Silliman of Yale concluded from its chemical composition that it was not native to Earth, one of the earliest confirmed extraterrestrial falls in American history. 219 years later, the same corner of the country heard that boom again. The scientists who explain exactly why that double boom happens are at NASA's Center for Near-Earth Object Studies, at the Jet Propulsion Laboratory in Pasadena. What they found when they examined the mechanics of this event changes how you understand what you heard. Here is what physically happened above Cape Cod Bay. A bolide is a fireball that fragments and explodes before reaching the ground. The mechanism is the airburst. As the object decelerated from 75,000 miles per hour, the ram pressure on its surface built until it exceeded the structural integrity of the rock. It came apart simultaneously across its entire mass, releasing kinetic energy as heat, light, and a shock wave in the same instant. That is the energy equivalent of 300 tons of TNT released at 40 miles altitude. Now here's the detail most coverage missed entirely. The double boom was not two separate events. The first pressure wave was the supersonic shock wave produced continuously along the object's flight path. The second was the energy pulse from the fragmentation itself. Because a bolide generates sound along a linear path rather than from a single fixed point, those two waves reached the ground at slightly different times. That is the acoustic signature of an airburst. That is what the Meteor called the dum. NOAA's GOES-19 geostationary lightning mapper, a satellite built to track thunderstorms, detected it as a sudden burst of light off the Massachusetts coast. The meteorite fragments that survived the fragmentation fell into Cape Cod Bay. The water depth at the confirmed fall site, according to NASA, is approximately 34 meters. Those fragments are not coming back up. The object gave no advance warning to any instrument on Earth. It simply arrived, and that is where the real story starts. The altitude of this airburst is the fact that matters most, and here is why. 40 miles is almost entirely harmless. Almost. On February 15, 2013, a bolide entered the atmosphere over Chelyabinsk, Russia, a city with a population of 1 million. It was also an airburst, but it detonated at 14 miles up, close enough that the shockwave shattered windows across 6 cities and sent over 1,500 people to hospitals, most injured by flying glass. The difference between 40 miles and 14 miles is the difference between shaken windows and a mass casualty event. Altitude is the variable, and altitude cannot be predicted without detecting the object before it enters the atmosphere. The Chelyabinsk object approached from the direction of the sun, invisible to every ground-based telescope on Earth. The New England object gave no warning either. This is where the public role matters. Robert Lunsford, Fireball Program Monitor at the American Meteor Society, said the organization collected dozens of reports from Delaware to Montreal in the minutes after the event. That geographic spread of witness reports is how scientists reconstructed the entry trajectory. When a bolide fragmented over Cleveland, Ohio, just weeks earlier in March 2026, the only AMS-affiliated all-sky camera in the state was offline. Witnesses were the only instrument that worked. The American Meteor Society runs a publicly accessible fireball reporting system. It asks for location, time, the direction of any light, the color, and whether the boom came once or twice. 90 seconds. It is currently some of the most useful planetary defense data available for objects that enter the atmosphere without warning. Now here is what almost nobody is reporting. The New England airburst was not a standalone event. The American Meteor Society logged 2,046 fireball events in the first quarter of 2026 alone, the highest total in its 15-year data series. Mike Hankey, who manages fireball reporting for the American Meteor Society and analyzed data back to 2011, described this season as distinctly visible in the numbers. The fireball rate at the 50 or more witness level had doubled. The statistical deviation was 3.9 standard deviations above normal. In the same quarter, a 6-foot asteroid fragmented over Cleveland and scattered meteorites across Medina County. A fragment penetrated the roof of a home in North Houston. A nearly identical sonic boom startled South Carolina days before the New England event. But here is the honest complication. NASA's March 26, 2026 blog post stated that even the routine annual increase in fireballs around the March equinox lacks a confirmed physical mechanism. Sensor upgrades and the 2022 declassification of U.S. Space Force bolide records have widened the detection net. Some of the 2026 surge may be better instruments, not more objects. Neither NASA nor the European Space Agency has published an analysis that separates those two explanations. The anomaly is real in the data. Whether it is real in the sky is still an open question. The boom over New England was the one that happened in daylight over a populated coastline. It is not the only airburst this year. It is simply the one someone was there to hear. On May 30th, 2026, no alert fired, no warning system activated. The Watertown police issued a statement about unknown origin while the rock was already in Cape Cod Bay. The Merriam Mere had a name for that sound before any instrument could explain it. They called it the dumb, and they built a tradition around listening for it, because something crossing from one world into another deserved to be remembered. The 337-station infrasound network maintained by the Comprehensive Nuclear Test Ban Treaty Organization, built to detect clandestine nuclear tests, is now one of the primary tools scientists use to study airburst events after the fact. We built a global nuclear watchdog and are repurposing it to hear rocks arrive from space, because it is the best instrument we have. If you see or hear something you cannot explain, find the American Meteor Society and submit a report. Your location, the time, the direction, the color, whether the sound came once or twice. That 90-second report is the gap between a data point and a blank space in the record. On May 30th, 2026, a 3-foot rock crossed 60 million miles of open solar system, entered the atmosphere above one of the most monitored coastlines on Earth, and nobody saw it coming. The next airburst will arrive exactly the same way. If this video made you think differently about what is moving above us right now, and about the changing weather, subscribe. The weather is getting more extreme every day, and we will bring you the stories as they happen.